More green juice? Okay. Hey everyone, I'm Abby Sharp. Welcome to Abby's Kitchen. So as my channel has really evolved over the years, I've seen a huge uptick in my plant-based followers. So of course, as a result, I've really made an effort to make more recipes for you guys who are looking for some more vegan and plant-based recipes. Also in my own life, I just have found that I've transitioned to eating more plant-based foods, just for a variety of reasons I'll talk about, but also the fact that it's kind of been a nice challenge for me to play with ingredients that I didn't necessarily grow up with, eating in a very kind of meat and potatoes British household. So that's been really fun to me. And I'm sure GOTUS will come at me for this, but I think the benefits of eating more plant-based foods is hard to dispute. So one, there's of course the sustainability and the and environmental considerations. In fact, Drawdown, which is a world-class research organization that analyzes global climate solutions, named eating a plant-based diet number 4 in their suggestions on improving climate change. I also think it's pretty clear from the evidence that eating more plant-based foods can help reduce the risk of a wide range of chronic diseases, including colon cancer, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and more. Finally, of course, for those who are concerned about animal cruelty, eating fewer animal products means less animals die. And whether or not you can do that in a humane way, of course, is up for debate. Also, I want to point out that despite what the internet trolls may say, dietitians like myself are not controlled by the meat and dairy industries. In fact, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics has come out and said that a well-planned vegan or vegetarian diet can be healthful, nutritionally adequate, and may have benefits that can help prevent or treat chronic diseases. So with all that said, why don't I just go vegan? Well, simply put, any kind of restrictive set of food rules is just not healthy for me, given my history of disordered eating. So I've told my orthorexia story in my book, The Mindful Glow Cookbook, but every single day now I'm getting DMs and comments on my YouTube channel and emails from all of you telling me about your relationship with food and your struggles that you're having in this kind of wellness culture that we're currently living in, especially when it comes to social media and the pressures around that. So I really felt like I wanted to take some time to tell my orthorexia story here on my channel as well. So when I was like 17 years old or so, I had just graduated from high school, and I sought out the help of a homeopathic practitioner to help me with some basic kind of digestive issues. So gas, bloating, digestive kind of pain or discomfort, all the kinds of things that we're talking and hearing about all the time on the internet, especially on YouTube. And her suggestion, of course, was to go on basically like a sugar detox, cutting out all the sugars in my diet, even the natural stuff. So I had always had like a generally balanced, healthy diet. I never really thought that much about food. I had never really dieted. My diet consisted of like a very healthy balance. Sometimes there were turkey burgers with salad. Sometimes there was grilled vegetables with a little steak or, pasta or a slice of pizza. I never overdid it. I never felt the need to kind of binge. I never obsessed over what I was eating. I just was eating ultimately intuitively, even though I didn't have a name for it then. I just was eating what felt good to my body. So my diet went from being relatively well balanced to a handful of really restrictive, clean eating foods. So big salads without dressing and steamed vegetables galore, grilled chicken breasts and other really lean proteins, plain, no sauce, sugar-free jello or other kind of diety products like that. And so, yeah, what started out as a desire to kind of kick a sugar habit very quickly spiraled into an overwhelming obsession and fear of all foods that I did not consider clean or healthy. And so this is what orthorexia is all about. Really, orthorexia is an obsession with clean eating, with healthy eating. And unlike other eating disorders like anorexia, where the concern is really on quantity of food, with orthorexia, it's all about quality or perceived quality. right? It's all about kind of eliminating those toxins or unclean foods from your diet. And even though it wasn't about weight loss for me, weight loss was never the goal. When I was eating such a small selection of foods and low calorie foods at that, I actually shed about 50 pounds on my already, pretty small natural frame. And the only thing more scary and up about that than the fact that I'm really lucky to be alive right now is the fact that I was constantly being praised for my ultimately malnourished body and my commitment to clean eating. Honestly, I can't tell you how many times that people would, pat me on the back because they saw what I was eating and tell me how good I was being and how bad they had been the night before for eating a Snickers bar. So basically, what I was being taught as a young 17-year-old girl was that my moral value was based on the food I was choosing to eat and my emaciated, controlled body. So anyways, at the same time, I was really falling into this anti-social cycle where my own fear of not having control over what I was going to be able to eat and my embarrassment over my disappearing body made me not want to go out with friends or make friends. But at the same time, being isolated and eating by myself only enabled my eating disorder and my disordered behaviors and my depressive thoughts. So for those of you who have struggled with disordered eating, you know that it's a lot easier for you to get away with it when you're doing so in isolation and nobody's standing over your shoulder being like, eat that. And that was 15 years ago. Scarily today, with the rise in popularity of clean eating and wellness diets, a lot of those things that I've been talking about so much here on the Abbey's Kitchen channel, a lot of these disordered eating behaviors have become synonymous with moral superiority and economic privilege and social class. In other words, it's become cool to eat clean. I mean, you can't really even go out for dinner anymore with friends without somebody talking about their new diet or detox. It's like we're trying to one-up each other on the moral value scale by restricting harder or more things. And even if you don't have friends in real life who participate, it's really easy to find your community online to help perpetuate your disordered beliefs and behaviors. Now, I want to take this back for a second just to reiterate that I'm not suggesting that veganism causes orthorexia. I'm not saying that. I've talked about that before. That is not my intention here. However, there is a fine line sometimes between wanting to eat healthy, however you want to define that, and orthorexia, which is why for me, for the longest time, it took so long for me to even recognize that there was an issue here. Because in my mind, I was just doing what was best for me and for my health. And from all the comments that I've seen, this concept is so pervasive. I'm seeing this in so many of the experiences that you all have been sharing with me. That is the wellness diet promise. But if you're curious where your intentions lie, it really comes down to being inflexible. If the thought of going out to dinner without knowing, what's going to be served or how it's prepared or not being able to control the menu your way sends you into a panic mode, you may have a problem. If your diet's starting to interfere with your emotional, psychological, and social well-being, you might have an issue. You might be in the best shape of your life and still in a health crisis. You honestly cannot judge a book by its cover. This is why, even though I see environmental, animal welfare, and health-based reasons to go plant-based, I cannot and will not ever be able to follow a strict vegan diet. Same would go for things like a keto diet or paleo or intermittent fasting or whatever. Even though it may be well-intentioned and grounded in wellness, I know that having to follow a strict set of rules would trigger my orthorexic tendencies and lead me back down that dangerous road that I worked so hard to get out of. I also get that a lot of you who practice a vegan diet will claim that this is not just about our health, it's about the health and well-being of the animals, and I totally understand that. I get that. However, this might just be a difference in values, but I feel that I need to value and prioritize my own health and well-being over that of the animals in this case. Some of you may not need to make that choice, and that's great. But just based on my own personality and history, I know that I do, and I have to prioritize my own well-being. So let's talk about my diet, how I eat, and what works for me. Now, I know that people like rules, they like categories, they like black and white. I mean, society has taught us that we need these external regulators to help us make decisions about our health and what to eat. But I've spent the better part of a decade trying to learn how to become comfortable with the gray and get back in tune with my body through intuitive eating. So what tends to work well for me is just eating foods that feel good to my body, make me feel satisfied without the need for explicit labels. I mean, you could technically call me kind of like a flexitarian, but I even reject that because I'm honestly just eating in a way that feels good to me in that moment, meal, or day. So usually that means eating a lot of plants with some dairy, fish, poultry, or meat in modest portions. I tend to feel most satisfied with some animal proteins and products in my diet. But more importantly, I think just not having those strict rules means I don't feel like repressed or restrained in a way that makes me just emotionally want to bounce between two extremes, which I know would be my tendency if I imposed these really strict rules. Honestly, if I went strictly vegan, I would be concerned that I would very quickly become unvegan and be eating raw duck breast in the back of a cab like this guy. No, but seriously, I could never do that. But I do know that it's just not emotionally healthy for me. I also believe that a lot of the benefits for the environment, animal welfare, and for our health can actually be achieved simply by consuming more plant-based products and consuming animal products in more modest ways. So for example, if we just thought of meat more like a side dish rather than always being the main event, or more kind of like a garnish, for example, on a dish to complement beans and legumes and pulses, we probably wouldn't have to rely so heavily on factory farming. We would be able to enjoy the antioxidants and fiber found in plant-based foods, and we could still participate in some of the social and cultural activities that involve animal-based products. I'm not here to preach to anyone to change their diet. I mean, you do what works best for you. Only you are the expert in your own body. But I really just wanted to reiterate that I want Abbey's Kitchen to be a respectful place for a variety of diets and for everyone to eat in ways that feels intuitive and healthy for them. So if my story rings a bell for you and you feel like you may be struggling with your relationship with food and disordered eating, we're gonna leave some really great resources in the description, so definitely check that out. I would also love to hear any kind of resources or strategies, things that have helped you along in your journey to intuitive eating and having a better relationship with food. Please, a reminder to everybody, let's be respectful on this video in the comments section. I do not want any diet hate going on. So let's keep it clean. But of course, if you like this video, be sure to give it the thumbs up. Leave me a comment below, like I mentioned, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time on Abbey's Kitchen. Bye.